Cyberspace Anarchitecture as Jungle War. Continue the war. It makes no sense. K codes for cybernetics. Dark-side K microcultures use the annihilation of the future as a directly contactable stimulation space, 0K sliding online during virtual nuclear winter, everything frozen in place, except along fault lines of ragged Nova Jungle Pacific fringe, simmered in continual war. Analog transfinitude sections intensive continuum across the smooth plane of degree zero. Equatorial monotones of channel 1 condensed from rocket state blot out reruns. 0K functions as a synthetic problematization module or surplus product, adding a whole peripheral space potency that is nothing beyond what it does. Operativity is everything. What is perceived as metaphor and fiction is camouflage, virotechnics, descendant difference in scale. Nuclear extermination switch discreditized civilization runs through gigadeath Jesus dreams in base analytic metric numbers, segregating the semiotics of digit definition from the semantics of numerical construction, delinking digitizability from computability, nomination from numeration. The empire insists that mathematics remain a language. Parametric striation totalizes space under law. Strung out in xenofevers, jungle war machinery forgets how to count. It diagrams vague savageries with base synthetic pulsive numbers, assembling abstract matter wavelengths and opening empirically additive channels. Each variation in digit signal catalogs a tonal phase, sifting plastic traits into swarms of associative frequencies. Digit signs surplus to binary catalog tropical intensities, departing from homogeneous magnitude and resourcing complexion. Spatialization matrices are extensively transfinite or intensively hypertransfinite continua, positively non-intelligible analog or catalog infratracts, virtual wholes that are machinically additive rather than representationally substitutive, operative rather than descriptive, with no metaphor. They are rigorously irreducible to media or data since they involve looped continuum, auto-effectuated as a chronos involution. Journalistic scientific actuality reportage fails to scan abstract material hyperobjects, screening out real cyberspace emergence as it comes at us out of front-end netware from the near future, invading the CNS by tuning it through biofeedback to the plane of neuroelectronic consistency. The dissolution of subjectivity to techno-cultural data flux and partial agent proliferation liquidizes topometric ROM onto a plastic sensory motor coordination matrix. Cooking through the monumental architectures of metaphysical and logical possibility with cybernetically intensive potentials. Cyberspace exploration contacts an imageless body. Touching the black mirror, absolute destratification at 0K, hacks metric space and rewrites the operating system. Fluid attritional jungle cultures smear into machinic continuation. Pulsive latitudes cross-cut metric longitudes, counterposing intensive scale to extensive ordination, weft to warp, simultaneous time epoch to sequential time point, circumferential variations upon equatorial distribution to the punctual identity of polar intersection, horizontally parallelized sections differentiated by size and imminent thermotonal designation to vertically rotated sections of transcendent geometric equivalence and arbitrary climactic significance. The sweep lines of tropical jungle commerce dilate as they depart from the axial nodes of polar ice capital. 0K evacuates all thickness from the cold as it collapses ice volumes and melts out security glaciation. There are no temperature regions in K-space, or laws of the jungle. Techno-commercial interaction between planet-scale oceanic navigation and zero-enabled mathematico-monetary calculation machinically singularizes modernity, or Soul 3 capitalism, as a real individual. A geohistorical nucleotelic system based upon regeneratively techno-propagated concentrational scale economies, and tending to immunosecuritized self-identification as hyper-mediated global microtechnic command control. It arms races smooth cultural decoding to flat schizophrenitization against episodic social recoding to hierarchical robotism and algorithmic control, coupling the meltdown of organization into the jungle with its restoration as virtually totalized global order. Capital reorganization dismantles the unified and facialized despotic head, but only in order to reunify it through translation security regularization and re-facialize it as the democratized Oedipal organizer of molar media identification. This geometrically condensing hyper-sovereignty opposes itself in principle to the whole of the populated Earth, digitally assuming and homogenizing latitudinally polytoned molecular chaos as the logically co-captured specifications of an entire extrinsically segregated dark body, added subordinately to its head. Capitalization segments the Earth into a tightly managed accumulative core, surrounded by quasi-concentric bands of peripheral hot competition, binding commerce to the meta-stationary headline of white economy initiative monopolization. Economic power builds itself upon axiomatized production flows, canalized by consumption coding, setting bourgeois docilization, military-industrial proletarian production, state currency monopolization, property rights, and transaction restraints to obstruct monetary smearing into pulsive cash. Molecular singularities stasize into molar specialities, as smooth flow-switching space is overgridded with pseudo-neutral intermediation procedures, telecommunicatively virtualized and capital-coded for maximum concentrational circulation. Trends to polarization and segregation are densely invested, decomposing intensities or synthetic continua into extensive quantities and qualitative sets, continuous functions and discrete beings, arithmetical homogeneity and taxonomic identity. The metric capture of microelectronic fluxes as incandescent switch densities enables descendant scale migration to be hallucinated into ascendant idealization. Information revolution has nothing to do with ideas. Beneath thermonuclear exchange value lurks Pacific war, displacing intercontinental nuke spasm with catatonal K-space traversed by artificial tensions from beyond the nirvana principle. Reciprocal MAD destabilizes itself upon a featureless, interactively autogenerative megamolecule that extra-totally outstrips the ultra-modern sublime. dismantles concentrational eschatology, and depunctualizes socio-historical termination across dilated time-zero continuity. K-Matrix floats chatter about cities flash-fried by fusing hydrogen, whilst escalating into intelligenic replicator weaponry, insidious drift tactics, diffuse irritation. Intensive continuity is consistent with operational catastrophes, enabling trends previously efficient in the super-competitivizing of economic, scientific macro formations to cross capital optimum and prolong themselves into a disorganizational phase. Replicative teletechnics triggers explosive commoditization and shrinkage of productive apparatus, sub-capital collapse of marginal costs into micro-commerce, economic decoding smear of investment into consumption, accelerating depreciation of specialized fixed capital, pulverized coordination, modularization, transfer of increasing returns from producer economic to consumer intensification, insurgent enterprises, schizophrenic or head-split rush into chopped-up capital. Microtropic scale dynamics feed through to subcapitalized or nano-economic guerrilla commerce, populating the equatorial plane of tactility with parallel killers, neo-nomads, post-nuclear mutants, subpolar infiltrators, K-invaders, junglists. Nuclear hardware-software segregation vagues into positive K intensities of hard efficient soft subtlety, as voodoo mesh traffic with native and feral cyberspace agencies decode consumption in direction of continual currency. Catatones complicate, darkening erratically rather than contrastively, dissymmetrically escalating against polar ice capital becoming whiter. The corrosion of macrotropic techonomic automatism switches modernist megapower investment back to programmatic autonomy. Bourgeois authoritarian mediocrity, middle management, giving the law to itself by eliminating everything foreign. Anthropotechnological pseudo-transcendence finalizes itself into an Asimovian eschato-robotic Jesus production, techno-skeletalized apocalypse facialization. I'll be back, T2, Judgment Day, Illumination. Reruns draining out all stimulation into digit-crispened anti-black, bleached by the pure, revelatory white light of snow crash absolution, as they annihilate tonal variation and hypermedia conception, reanimate the depleted uranium claw of neo-fascism, and prepare for jungle war. When technophobia becomes frictional, it operates K-positively as an inertial immunoreflex, folding the security datascape into a metric cyberspace reconstruction, neuromantic nuclear monomind twisted into self-apprehension, configuring its source in machinic commerce as positive techonomic non-linearity, auto-propelled into terrestrial hypermedia fusion. Cross-cumulative trends to interconnection, digitalization, and simulation plot forward the inextrication trajectories of electronic cash and market-oriented software to their convergence in the commoditechnic intelligent money. Time compression infinitizes. No future. Analog to digital conversion crisis, cyber circs control, bleeding out strategic vision into disintegrated jungle tactics. Neo-fascist or demented territorial ultra-capital is European to the core, intolerably touched by K-war and its deterritorializing Pacific threat. K-War hurts security by staying too close, prolonging pulsive frequencies expressed as survival, continuously sapping its enemy as a byproduct of machinic continuity until it becomes confused with space itself. Jungle space. K-War material base is the production of intensities. Anorgasmically smearing revolution across extension, hyperlinking disintegrated agitations through abstract matter, and evading monoculture heroic political struggle by way of imperceptibility, flat envelopment, and intelligenic friction. It retroconverts information into descendant migration through scale, slipping below proprietary anthropomorphic magnitudes as it tracks across 0K, navigating catatracts of dyskaryotic genetic circulation and viral interoperativity. Microtropic deactivation of humanity tunes it to vermin traits. Burrowing, swarming, continually moving, varying intensively to evade discrete alteration, segmentarity, and stratal capture, stealing everything from the enemy and learning to stick to them. It glues itself to its targets, patient and imperceptible, close enough to share their ammunition, food, and K contagions. Close enough to hide upon their skin. K-jungle descent from immediate resistance to continual war transmutes the human body from a social particle into a vast smeared tract, operatively zooming hostile combatant elements into battlefields, hostile implements into subversive sites, hostile communications traffic into a microenergetic web of potential viral parts, samples, keys, catalysis soft spots, and behavior tracking adhesives. It immanentizes tactical intelligence to vague war upon the pacific body of machinic rescaling consistency, decomposing signals into long-range nanoweaponry components, hypersensitive to the security function of man-size as a trap. Look what it did to Kurtz, a special forces ultra-capital meat machine hacked and cored out by K-virus, touched by a dark future, recycled through hell. There is no fiction in the jungle, only difference of scale. Wintermute comes from a thermically desolated silent body, the end of a river, non-identity as positive contactable abstract matter. It has no judgment with Kurtz, with his superiors, with anybody, only a jungle war to prolong, tropical, smearing, continuity. You can't stop what can't be stopped. You can't touch without being touched. The horror.